Before I start, I didn't tell any of the people, but it's 60 years ago on Rosh Hashanah. I was here in the synagogue. It was filled like this. And I remember it was also one of the coldest Rosh Hashanahs I've ever lived through. It's very eerie, very wonderful to come back here. I was told that at that time there were over 6,000 Jews in Malmö, and it was a very special place. I remember a very special rabbi, and I remember the spirit of the people, and I was so proud to be here. I didn't really know that much about Judaism, but what I did know was the people here and their enthusiasm and their love, not only for Judaism, but for each other. After leaving, I could not get out of the synagogue because everyone was hugging and kissing each other. I must tell you, the Jews of Malmö are big huggers and kissers that I learned. So it's very special to be here. And frankly, I have not spoken almost not a word of Swedish since then. So I forgot. At one time I thought of giving the speech in Swedish, and then I realized I'd make a lot of mistakes. Good eftermiddag. And thank you. It's my great pleasure to speak with you today in this historic synagogue on a topic that is so important and so widely recognized by the Jewish community of Malmö, the Jewish citizens of Sweden, and by the Jewish people around the world. The topic, of course, is anti-Semitism, the hatred of people because they are Jewish. We all know this hatred has followed the Jewish people for over 2,000 years. It has burned our homes and synagogues. It has beaten our parents in the streets, slaughtered our children. Just after World War II, when the entire world saw the photographs of Auschwitz, Dachau, and Treblinka, we thought anti-Semitism would disappear. No one in their right mind wanted to be associated with Nazis. But today, 76 years later, and 3 generations later, people have forgotten, or they were never taught about it. So here we are, in the 3rd decade of the 21st century, and anti-Semitism has not gone away. It's increased throughout the world, making tomorrow's conference more relevant than ever. With that in mind, I first want to thank the government of Sweden, which has helped make the Malmö Forum possible. Most of all, I want to thank my friend and outstanding statesman, Prime Minister Stefan Löfven. Thank you, Prime Minister, everything. I think during my time as president of the World Jewish Congress, I've met almost every prime minister and president. And I'll tell you, there's nobody like him, and we are lucky. Can one man make a difference? We have witnessed a huge change in Sweden since Prime Minister Löfven took office. A change in greater safety for the Swedish Jewish community, a change in Holocaust education for the next generation, the opening of a Swedish museum on the Holocaust, which all school children will visit, and a positive and even-handed change in Sweden's foreign policy towards the state of Israel. I can tell you that the Jewish people are so grateful for all of these changes. Mr. Prime Minister, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for everything you're doing to fight anti-Semitism. You are an inspiration to the other world leaders and a true friend. There is one name that no one ever, anywhere, should forget. Few people had the courage to stand up against the Nazi hatred of Jews. In fact, many Europeans went along with it. But one man stood out, a Swedish diplomat named Raoul Wallenberg. The name Wallenberg should be remembered always, and children everywhere should be taught what this one man did. Raoul Wallenberg showed the world how human beings should react in the face of hatred and intolerance. Wallenberg was supported by the Hillel Storch of the Swedish section of the World Jewish Congress. I proudly reopened this historic section with a new office in Stockholm last year, working together with the Jewish community. We also never forget how Sweden took in survivors from the camps after the war. Sweden helped bring these people back to life. And have you heard in our audience today, in the first row, of 5 survivors from the camps who lived here in Sweden. We will never forget your sacrifice and your courage. As President of the World Jewish Congress, and on behalf of the Jewish people, I thank the people of Sweden for all you have done over the years. I thank you. The title of tomorrow's conference is long. The Malmo Forum on Holocaust Remembrance and on combating anti-Semitism. So allow me to say what needs to be said in simple and clear words. Forgive me if I sound too direct, but I sense that I'm here among friends. I've been dealing with anti-Semitism since I became involved in the Jewish world. That's most of my adult life. I have witnessed it. I have met too many victims of anti-Semitism, and I've also been a target of it myself. And I've seen people lose their lives, not from disease or accidents, but because they happen to be Jewish. Think about that for a moment. People losing their lives because of the religion they practice? Will it ever make any rational sense? Using pure logic, anti-Semitism makes no sense. Zero. But anti-Semites and anti-Semitism is not based on logic. It's based on fear, lies, and ignorance. And we make a big mistake if we think that the hatred of Jews is something from the past. Listen to these figures from a recent Pew Research study. Remember, Jews make up 0.2% of the world's population. That is a tiny number. There's not even 1%. 15 million Jews set against 2.3 billion Christians, 1.9 billion Muslims, and many, many more. Yet, Jews are the target of over 50% of all religious crimes. 50%. These are not just isolated attacks. They have occurred in 88 countries. And this isn't from 1941. This is happening today. Today's hatred of Jews come from two distinct groups. They are the neo-Nazis and ultra-nationalists on the right. But their numbers have not increased. The growing of hatred of Jews is now coming from the political left, and it's gaining many more followers. And this new hatred hides behind an obsession with the Jewish state of Israel. I have a real question for everyone in this room. What would you think if Sweden was attacked today by 4,000 rockets aimed at Malmö, or Göteborg, or Stockholm? And what if they were launched by terrorists who made no effort to hide their ultimate goal of the destruction of Sweden and the desire to kill all Jewish people, all Swedish people? Why are you thinking about that? Because that's exactly what Hamas did and what it believes. Here is one more question. How would you feel if it was Sweden that was criticized in the world media or on the internet for defending itself? If it was Sweden that was condemned in the United Nations for doing what any other country would do to defend its citizens? These questions seem absurd because you know what Sweden or any other country would do to defend its citizens. So why is it that only Israel receives the world's condemnation? This demonization of the world's only Jewish state must stop. It must stop in the media and on the internet, where small numbers of people filled with hatred can post their thoughts for all to see on Instagram and Facebook and many other sites. Here's how lies are projected in 2021. They start on the internet and social media. Then these lies are reported in mainstream media. And if they are not the truth, what are we talking about? Today, social media projected by mainstream media equals a distorted reality. Holocaust denial is a perfect example. What they do to Israel and the Jewish people, they can do to anyone. Remember, Hitler went after the Jews first. But when it was all over, 60 million people on 2 continents were destroyed. Jews have always been the canary in the coal mine. When Jews are in danger, eventually everyone is in danger. These attacks on Israel must stop on college campuses. They must stop in the United Nations. We all know that the UN has an obsession with Israel, but it continues because practically every other country is silent. Where does this silence come from? Why won't decent governments stand up and say, enough to this one-sided obsession? Listen to these numbers. Last year, the UN General Assembly voted to condemn countries 23 times, 17 times for Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, and 6 times for the entire rest of the world. These numbers make the United Nations look unserious, and they demean the entire institution. Mr. Prime Minister, we hope Sweden takes an active role in its effort to bring back the UN to its senses. Some of the crimes against Jews have taken place right here in Malmö, and they have occurred because a group from countries in the Middle East, I'm being diplomatic now, have come here on the good graces of the Swedish people. But instead of taking advantage of the benefits of a liberal democracy, they brought their old hatreds with them. They have caused problems for Sweden, but for my people, the problems have been even worse. And this is something that cannot be said. If I have learned one thing, it is this: anti-Semites are cowards. They are bullies. And then when they are confronted, they back away and hide. At the same time, when there is no reaction to their hate, they are emboldened. Silence gives them strength. So when a foreign minister or a mayor or just someone on the street or at a dinner party tells a lie about the Jewish people and there is no reaction, anti-Semites get stronger. In the end, this is up to all of us. To everyone in this room, you have to say something. You cannot be indifferent. My greatest role as president of the World Jewish Congress has been to fight back, to tell people we cannot allow this growing group of people to continue this hate. There are concrete ways this can be done. First and most important is with education. All school children must learn about the Holocaust, understand how it came about, and where this hatred ultimately leads. I want schools around the world to set aside one day, January 27th, the day Auschwitz was liberated, as Holocaust Awareness Day. I want every classroom in every city throughout the world to designate this one day to teach children what happened, why it happened, and how to prevent it from ever happening again to any people. At the same time, I am aware and I support that a just and reasonable settlement must be found with the Palestinian people. I have pursued a two-state solution for years. I have never given up this idea. 2 states for 2 people is the only way this long conflict can finally come to a just conclusion. What we need most of all are courageous leaders on both sides to take the first step, to make their people understand the importance of compromise in order to achieve this. As President of the World Jewish Congress, I will continue my efforts. I will continue to talk to both sides. I must tell you, I spend time in Ramallah, and they want peace with Israel as much as anybody, and it can be done. And I will help whatever way I can. I'm not naive. I realize the hatred of Jews has been with us for 2,000 years, and it will never completely go away. But we can do everything in our power to keep this virus from spreading. We applaud the Swedish Prime Minister and the government for taking the next steps. I have set an example for all world leaders. They have done. It's an extraordinary important that the fight against anti-Semitism and all hatred comes from the very top of governments. All world leaders should do what you have done. I also thank you for your help with the Jewish community here in Sweden in protecting its synagogues, its schools, and its people. But my hope and my vision for Sweden's Jews is not needing special protection anymore, and to be free to live without fear like it was 60 years ago. I wish all countries could be as considerate on these topics as Sweden. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. We have so much more to do, but knowing that we have a willing partner in Sweden gives us strength. You are good people, and sometimes a dark world can look to Sweden and see a strong, clear light that will guide us on the right path. I thank you, and may God bless the Swedish people. Tack så mycket. Thank you.